Welcome in and welcome back, everybody, to Sports Profit TV. This is the MLS Live podcast. We are on match week 16. Happy Tuesday evening to everybody tuning in with us. We sent out a almost mid-season update on week by week results on how we're doing so far. We are right around the 63-64% mark on the year so far for the show. Garrett and I are both really happy with that. So, the goal is to continue to get you guys CLV, closing line value, and, sniff out some good spots for you guys and hopefully continue to be sharp and provide winners. So that's the goal, right?
Absolutely, man. I'm really happy with that percentage number. And to do it free makes me also extremely thrilled. I love interacting with this footy community and talking footy and sharing bets and just trying to get a leg up on the house, so to speak. And it's been a good season so far. I have no complaints.
Thanks for tuning in, Biscuit. No complaints from either side. We're going to continue to try to hold up to that standard and provide good insight. And there's Jose tuning in as well. Good to hear from both of you guys. All right. We are not going to rush through the show, but we've got a little bit of a time frame that we want to get this done by tonight. So let's go ahead and hop into player news right off the bat tonight. If you follow MLS, you know that there have been some rumblings, maybe more than rumblings at this point, probably some smoke, almost some, not quite fire, but we're getting there. And that involves Phil Neville, who was sacked. He was fired from Inter Miami last week, I believe. And that has got to be related to Leo Messi potentially coming to Miami. If anything, they want to make Miami look as interesting, as presentable as possible to Messi. Is that what's going on here?
I mean, Neville deserved to get fired regardless of Messi. It's hard to make a team at the bottom of the table look super appealing, but yeah, we'll just roll it into the whole news here. Neville was fired in part because of the attempts to get Messi, in my opinion, because Neville's system does not fit anything Messi does. And to be honest, I don't know who would fit that system. That system had no identity. I could not tell you what they were trying to achieve on the pitch at any given moment. But yeah, Neville's out. The interim coach has not started off great, losing his first match. So we'll see what goes on here. But we can just roll that into talking Messi to Inter Miami, because things have never been hotter as far as that rumor goes than right now. I mean, today it just popped off. As soon as the story broke where Barcelona couldn't give Messi any guarantees, all of a sudden, of course, his other destinations start heating up, whether that's Saudi Arabia, who's buying up players left and right, or Inter Miami, who's always been hanging around in that rumor mill. There's nothing confirmed, but it really looks like he might be headed to Miami.
Yeah, and kind of put that in perspective. I mean, Messi coming to Miami, he's still got some prime playing years left.
I don't think it's doing it injustice or being a victim of the moment in saying that if Messi comes to MLS, it is the single biggest moment in the league's history. I think that's honestly the best way to put it. When Beckham came to Galaxy, it propelled the league forward in a way that I think people hoped but couldn't really expect. Messi is that on rocket fuel for this league. PSG, when they announced that they're no longer that they weren't going to keep Messi, or that Messi was leaving in the summer, lost 2 million followers on social media. Like that's the kind of pull this dude has. And so to pull in arguably, and in my opinion, the greatest player of my generation, like in the world, to MLS, I really like it hasn't even like settled with me yet because I mean, you're holding, you don't want to, you want to pump the brakes a little bit. Nobody big has announced it. There are reports coming out of Argentina saying it's a done deal. Some of these people have historically been very close to Messi when it comes to reporting him. So there is a lot of smoke to this. It's just nobody that we follow on the regular, like that covers, every inch of the globe has said, yes, this is a done deal. So we're waiting on that. But it would be the single biggest moment in the league's history today. And there's no other way to put that. And MLS is pulling out all the stops for this. I mean, they're leveraging their partners and that partnership with brands like Adidas and Apple and how that can enhance Messi's brand. He's taking less money and more years if he comes to Miami versus Saudi Arabia. So you have to think that those partnerships offer some pretty lucrative opportunities. I don't know all the details. If I had the contract, it would take me a day to read through. All I know is it's super complicated as far as how all that stuff looks. But what Michael Jordan did to the NBA from a brand standpoint with his shoe and those kind of royalties and how he propelled the league forward, that has a similar vibe here with Miami and MLS.
Wow.
I don't think I'm short selling that.
Cool. So in the more immediate, more Inter Miami, specifically related to that club, and then we'll move along. Say Messi comes, he's probably not coming by himself. As far as he probably has a coach in mind. He's probably got some players in mind. Can Miami get out of the cellar? Because they're dead last right now. Can they get out of the cellar and make the playoffs and make some noise, or what?
Make the playoffs.
I think they're 10 points behind whoever's in the 8th spot right now.
Yeah. 6 points behind Charlotte. And Charlotte's in the last place. There's 9 getting in the playoffs this year because there's a play-in game.
Okay.
I mean, it depends. I mean, you still don't come for another month, right? Like you've got to survive another month and not get just sandbagged.
Right.
But it's Messi. Like he's still great, even at the age he is now. Coming to the MLS, he's definitely going to make everyone around him better. That's what he does. You got to think so. Josef Martinez is there up top. He hasn't looked like himself. But what part of that is Josef's health and has he lost a step from the injuries and surgery? And what part of that was, again, the coaching, the system? I mean, if you can't put a striker in a system with no direction or identity and expect him to do well, that's just not going to work that way.
Right.
It's a tough year for Miami, right? They've lost some key midfielders. It would be interesting. Make the playoffs, sure. I mean, 9 of 15 teams in the East are going to get in, right? So more than half. So do you have a shot? Absolutely. And once you're there, anything's possible. The team just isn't super talented. And it's really not anywhere where I thought it would be. But a new coach, they bring in Messi. It has been rumored that maybe another player is coming too if he comes. Things can turn around quick, man. Things can turn. You look at Cincinnati, 3 wooden spoons in a row, and now they're running for the Supporters Shield 2 years later. Things turn around quick.
Absolutely, yeah. And that I mean, without harping on it too much, because we do have to move along, but it would be huge, and I'm rooting for it. I mean, we've been following this news for about a year, so hopefully it continues to trickle in, and Messi to MLS would be a lot of fun. But moving along to some not quite as big a news, but definitely notable, definitely worth looking at. We've got some transfer rumor mill news now that the big European leagues have come to a close. A lot of players that are looking for their next landing spot. MLS has become a bigger market for those, previously bigger name players that are still in their prime. Now we're getting some of those guys. You look at Ayoze Perez, formerly at Leicester City. Leicester City bought this guy from La Liga for like 37 million pounds or something. I mean, it was a huge, huge buy. He's only 28 years old. And he's being linked to MLS.
Yeah, it's not going to be a cheap deal. He's going to be a DP. His salary is going to be rather high. It's interesting, right? It's more of a I don't think it's a great DP deal. This is more of a team that needs to make a splash, or maybe it is one piece away from winning and is willing to go all in, or a team that doesn't make the best financial decisions. I look at DPs. I think of like Atlanta, for instance, coming to mind. Like they pay big money for DPs. This dude's coming in on a free, so there's no fee with him. You just got to pay a salary. And with him being a DP, the salary doesn't count against your books. So it really just depends what somebody's willing to pay him. He's not out of European looks either. It's just interesting depending on the price, if he comes or not. And if he comes, he's going to do, I think, well. I don't think you're getting those Newcastle seasons where he was scoring goals left and right. He strikes me more in the MLS as a 10 or a creating winger. I can't see him scoring a bunch. But he offers some goal threat, and he could help a team for sure. It's just nice again to be getting names like this, right? Like,
absolutely.
So no, it's encouraging to see, and I'm curious where he ends up. It's one to follow.
Absolutely. A couple of MLS names to talk about, to keep an eye on before we get into predictions. First on the list is Carranza, striker from Philadelphia, who's been on fire. He is getting some sniffs from Europe at the moment. Is this a move that Philadelphia wants to make? Do they sell him if they can, if he's at his peak price, or I mean, what do they want to do here?
So yeah, Philly's always been business first. You've seen that by some of the academy players they've sold over to Europe before they even really got a lot of playing time. Paxton Harrison and being one that pops into my head. But do they want to sell him? Probably not. I mean, they're looking to answer for last season, coming so close to winning the title. Got knocked out of CONCACAF Champions League when they really wanted to win it. So there's a lot for them to do. However, they've shown they're not going to turn down the right offer. So it's interesting because he's been hot right now. Of course, when players are hot, the names get tossed around in circles more. So come summer, it'll be interesting to see how he is. It's just funny because this dude was left for dead in Miami. Like we just assumed he was a bust, and he goes to Philly and is now thriving in that system. So we'll see, but it is worth noting he's been their best offensive attacking player so far this season. So it's worth mentioning.
For sure, absolutely. When I think about Philadelphia and I think about what LAFC just did, the issues they have with Leon, I kind of wish that Philadelphia was on the other side of the Champions League bracket. I feel like Philadelphia probably matched up better with Leon than LAFC, but that's a whole nother that's a whole nother conversation. But
at the end of the day, for that, LAFC just didn't show up. They just straight just didn't show up, and Torangelo was gravely outcoached. So Leon absolutely 100% deserved that.
Yeah, Leon's got a great coach. That guy is not going to be there long. He's going to be in a big league soon. I mean, he's the Argentine that's there at Leon. All right, last piece of news here to talk about before we get to match week 16 predictions. Amaria, forward from Minnesota. He's gone to Liga MX. He's going to be at Mazatlan now. One of the names that's been brought up as a potential replacement is Teemu Pukki, the Finnish striker, formerly at Norwich City. I'm not sure if he's still there or not, but
he's
I
out of
feel like he's kind of
contract.
old.
They haven't brought him back yet. He is old. But this reeks of a Minnesota United forward signing. Like, this is what they do. They find either old busted or no good to play at their 9. They've needed a striker for forever, and this is the same song and dance. I don't know why they keep doing this. Can Pookie play in MLS? Sure. I mean, he's played so much in championship, and the physicality is on a similar level where, yeah, he's going to score. I mean, he's not going to run away with the golden boot or anything. And those legs are going to give out sooner than later. But yeah, this is a typical Minnesota signing for a team that has always had some promise, and their front office derails them time and time again.
Right on. All right, moving along to predictions. Best part of the show. I know we are excited to keep it going. All right, first play on the board here, Garrett. This is going to be yours. We were just talking about Minnesota, and this game involves them.
Yep, I'm going to jump on Minnesota here. Going to Montreal, taking the short flight, about 2.5 hours to Montreal to play. And I'm playing this 2 ways, where I'm going to be on their draw no bet for a full unit, but I'm also going to hit that money line for anywhere between 1/4 to 1/2 unit, depending on your risk tolerance. But yeah, this is oh man, I love this spot for Minnesota. Montreal's got a big game midweek in the Canadian Championship. Spot for CONCACAF Champions League is on the line. Yep. So they're going to be on short rest. The Canadian Championship is interesting because you have to play at least 3 Canadians in each game. But most of those Canadian teams have quite a few Canadian players. So I don't expect a lot of changes in their starting 11 in their roster. But the big thing for me is Reynoso's back. Got 25 minutes last game, and he looked excellent from the moment he came in. I've said before, he's the best dribbler in MLS. You saw one of those key dribbles into the box if you watched the game last week, where what he does with the ball in his feet is sometimes just absolutely mesmerizing. Minnesota, it does actually have the best, is actually the best road team in the West by points, with a -3 goal differential. They got 4 wins, 5 losses. We've talked about how MLS has a home team advantage. Typically, if you look, there's only one team in the West with an even positive goal differential, and that's the Sounders. So that's not surprising. So when I say like best road team, still haven't played great on the road, but they've played better than most when traveling. Montreal has a great home record. There's no way to like get around this. They got 5 wins and 1 loss with a +7 goal differential. However, especially at home, they are overperforming basically all their key metrics. They've gained 5.5 more points than they've expected on the season so far. Minnesota has the second best expected goals when traveling, and a top 10 in expected goals allowed as far as like good defense. So they've got a top 10 road defense, the second best road attack from a metric standpoint. And for Montreal, Kyoto, they're probably the most dangerous attacker, which I'm not high on this team by any means. Kyoto is electric, but he's not consistent. He's still their most dangerous attacker. He's out for a while. And so missing their best goal threat with a muscle injury. Minnesota getting a full week off. Montreal in short rest. A Minnesota team that's not afraid to travel. They do have the most wins in the West when traveling. This is a spot I can't pass up with this price. I just think it's a really nice spot here to try to attack a Montreal team that I'm not high on, but has a good record at home.
Yeah, I think Minnesota's the better team. And obviously home field advantage is a big deal, and that's part of the reason the odds are the way they are. Minnesota is just more well-rounded, and it seems like they're more disciplined. And I think part of the reason they've been good on the road this year is their counter-attacking style, and they're solid defensively. the thing about um, Minnesota too, to me, is with Reynoso coming back, that changes. I mean, look at what they've done this year, and it's fair to grade that and say, okay, they've been pretty good at this. They haven't been so good at this. They've been just kind of average in the middle, but they're a whole nother team when he comes back. So
I would argue it's been a sensational year for them with no Reynoso so far. For them to
there you
be in
go.
the playoff hunt right now on a
Yeah,
team that is literally built around this one dude, and he hasn't been there for any games, is sensational. And so Reynoso's, I wasn't high on Minnesota in preseason, but they are absolutely holding their own right now, considering what they've had to go through. And then
yeah,
now you're bringing their best player back.
yeah. We're trying to catch them on the way up. Remember earlier in the year, if you're watching the show right now, don't be scared of these plus money numbers. We've hit a couple of them this year. One that comes to mind was Seattle at LA Galaxy. You hit the draw no bet and the money line. So don't be scared out there.
And I think people who've watched or followed me know I'm pretty risk averse. Like I don't throw out a ton of units from time to time. And so if I'm willing to tap a game a couple of different ways, I'm really liking that look.
Absolutely. All right, we'll keep it moving. Garrett, we're going to go with your second play here, which is in the Kansas City and Austin game, and this is a play I love. I'm just going to preface that.
Oh yeah, because you love to hate your own team. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna be on Sporting Kansas City's money line. It's just very playable. I'm not gonna get into like actual like goal metrics like I normally do because to be honest, they're both trash for both sides. This is not a pretty game. But Austin on the road are vulnerable. Um, Kansas City home play has been key. Is key for here for this play. We talked about the home field advantage. That's why I prefaced it earlier. Um, Drusy is back for Austin, but they haven't been great even with him, let alone without him. It, it's kind of a mess there in the record. Austin has 4 losses in 7 road games, -6 goal differential. Kansas City only has 3 wins in 7 home games for a +1 goal differential. We talked about it when we were on Kansas City Double Chance last show, where this is just a different side with Polito and Kinda back in. Kenda and Tommy have worked well together. Kenda's offered them a dash of creativity that they needed. They win that game. They win their last game versus Vancouver if it wasn't for a penalty. And you can't really handicap those. That's just the ball is going to hit where it hits. The player is going to make a dumb defensive play. That's not something that you can really bank on. So at home, that vibe's always been good there, even though the record hasn't been great this season. I think because of who they've been missing. So to get it at this price, I'm totally down to fade Austin on the road here.
Yeah, I'm definitely down with it too. But look, Sporting Kansas City has won their last 3 at home. Pretty commanding performances too. I mean, against teams. Minnesota United, we just talked about them, beat Portland 4-1, beat a decent FC Dallas team 2-1. And the thing about Austin, when I looked at this game, I kind of looked like instinctually I wanted to back, or I looked at Sporting Kansas City's first half team total because that's been good to me over the years. And now that they've got their stuff together, I was looking at that. But I know how Austin plays, and I know how they play on the road. Austin comes out on the road and does almost the same thing every single time. They high press for the first like 15 minutes, almost every single road game, and they try to force you into an early mistake. Hasn't been that successful this year. But if you can kind of weather that storm, that's kind of all they have. They don't really have any more tricks up their sleeve. They're not talented. They're kind of a one-trick pony as far as when they're on the road, as far as that's concerned. Kansas City deals with that. I think that I've got a fly flying around my office here. It's driving me crazy. But I think, once Kansas City weathers that storm, I think they're good. I think they're gravy. I think at this point in the year, they are playing better. And right now, I think they're a better team than Austin, and you're getting them at home where they've excelled the last couple of games. So, yeah, I really like this spot. I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking for myself. I also like Sporting Kansas City's team total over 1.5 because I think Austin's defense is still bad. But I probably prefer the money line because Austin's offense, their attack at times has just been completely non-existent. And so you don't want to rule out a 1-0 here, which is totally in the cards. And I like the price here at -106.
I think this might be one of the last times you get a really nice line on Sporting KC too at home. I'm just looking ahead to the next game versus LAFC, and they are favorites at +123. LAFC aren't world beaters on the road, but yeah, this is Sporting Kansas City's good line days are starting to go away. Like I did not expect them to be that big of a favorite against LAFC. So it's
Yeah,
grabbing the value while it's there.
absolutely. Right on. All right. Speaking of LAFC, they are involved in my official show play, so I'm going to go ahead and hop to that. Looking at Houston Dynamo at home here, hosting LAFC, I'm going to take the under market, under 3 goals here at -140. This line is pretty much 2.75 everywhere, but I want the push protection in case something happens here, we get some late goals or something like that. But I really think this. I don't think this game gets to 3 goals. Honestly, I really don't think it gets there. LAFC is in a bit of a funk right now in attack. They started as hot as anybody in the year. They have fallen to only 13th in the league in expected goal production. So their attack, there's a little bit, whether it's teams adjusting to their style of play. Or if they've got the yips, mentally a little bit, if they're just off right now, I don't exactly know what it is, but they are not anywhere near as hot as they were to start the year. I was shocked to see that number 13th. I mean, you would think, oh, they're a top 5 attack, but they're 13th in the league in expected goals right now.
Well, we see that with every team making a CCL run, right?
True.
Like you look at Philly. You just mentioned it the other day to me. Now that they're out, that offense is starting to get going. They're starting to crank it up. So for me, it's not super surprising considering what the whole focus has been, right? Like it's just get through the MLS games, don't get hurt. Let's advance to the next round of CCL and on and on and on to the point where they rested starters for 11 days leading up to the final. So there is going to be that initial drop off after almost every team has it when they crash out of CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah.
We saw it with Vancouver. Like we've seen it year over year. That's one of the more regular things is there is an immediate drop off in the crash out.
Yep.
Give them a week, 2 weeks to get their legs back underneath them. To that schedule lightens up a little bit, and we see them take back off. So LAFC is going to be a fun team, I think, here in about 2 weeks, 14 days, and then we kind of lead into Leagues Cup. But this is a good spot where I think Dynamo are playing. Their game just wrapped up. They went to Chicago and beat Chicago. And so they're going to be on some shorter rest. LAFC plays tomorrow in LA, hosting Atlanta United. They'll be on some midweek legs as well. This is a spot where I could see Houston is clearly now in it for the cup. That's going to be their easiest route to CCL. That's going to be their easiest route to silverware this season. So coming off of that game, maybe you play a decent lineup, but I don't think you play like the normal 11 strength that you would. I could totally see LAFC just rotating after playing midweek, depending on who they roll out after crashing out of CONCACAF. And LAFC on the road have not been super dominant from a goal standpoint. Their totals have hung around 2.753, and they typically will hit 3 on the nose. I do think when taking a total with LAFC, if you're going under, getting that hard 3 is important just because there's a high chance you push. But yeah, it's interesting. Their totals haven't been great. Houston's only gone over at home once.
Yeah.
They've pushed 5 times this season on the total. Uh, and so yeah, I think the under 3 is a good look here. I like it. I think you have to eat the juice here to get the 3. I'm not sure I want to be sitting on the 2.75.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't want to. I'm happy with paying for the 3 here. A couple other things about this game. You mentioned the midweek stuff. LAFC plays against Atlanta tomorrow. Houston played tonight as we're recording Tuesday. Houston's not, their numbers aren't great either. 21st out of 29 as far as expected goals. And LAFC has the number 1 ranked defensive unit in MLS right now, as far as the analytics are concerned. Here's the cherry on top here. It's going to be 96 degrees on Saturday in Houston, Texas, and it's going to be humid and miserable. We talk about Denver being a place where it's hard to breathe because of the elevation. Humid and hot is pretty bad too. It's not as bad, but you're struggling to breathe as well as you normally would. So, also, LAFC just played in the Champions League final. Playing at Houston is not quite as exciting. I have a really hard time seeing them be way, way up for this game. And then you also mentioned the way that Houston has played at home. They've been very compact, and they've actually been decent defensively at home. So I don't think this gets to 3. I think this is a winner, obviously, or I wouldn't be playing it. But let's go ahead and get to our 4th and final play of the show.
So I'm going with an interesting over here. I'm going with San Jose over 2.5. San Jose is at home hosting Philly. I'll just get into some metrics. San Jose, I've liked this attack, especially at home. They've got an expected goals per game of a 1.64, super healthy. You like to see that. Philly on the road actually has been pretty vulnerable from an expected goals allowed. They're allowing 1.5 expected goals a game. So I like where those numbers match up from an offense and defensive point of view. I think there will be some goals there for San Jose, but I'm not going to back San Jose here because I like what Philly's doing now that they seem to have gotten their legs underneath them from the crash out of CONCACAF Champions League. And I really like the chances they are creating right now on the road, including just their last game versus NYC, where they created 3 big chances. Most teams don't do that against New York when they travel to New York, whether it's at Yankee Stadium, Citi Field. I'm pretty sure this one was at Yankee Stadium. So it was a really nice game for Philly. The home over for San Jose and the away over for Philly are both at a 4-3 through 7 games. And the biggest thing for this game for me is Martinez, their defensive midfielder, is out. He is a key anchor for them. Big. He is suspended. He missed 4 games in early May, and the over 2.5 went 3-1 during that stretch for Philly. And that was when they were not churning great offensively. I mean, they drew 1 game, Chicago 3-3. That game just had goals everywhere. So, yeah, I really like this look with San Jose getting over, where I think you see 2 goals from one team. I think both teams to score is very viable here. It's just more juice, obviously. So the over 2.5 here works for me. It covers you a lot of different ways in a spot where with Martinez out, I think Philly are super vulnerable, but their offense has shown they can score on anyone right now. Their offense is really clicking.
Yeah, this was interesting. Just seeing those 2 logos next to each other was interesting, I guess, from an aesthetics standpoint, because I don't remember seeing these 2 teams play each other. I guess because it's Philadelphia going all the way to the West Coast. I don't know when's the last time these 2 teams played, but it seems like I can't remember when the last time they played. So I don't think this is a very common matchup in MLS, but it's definitely interesting. I like goals here as well. San Jose, they've only played 1 home game in their last 5. So it looks like if you look at their schedule, they're in a little bit of a scoring drought, like they're not scoring as much. Well, they've been on the road 4 of their last 5 games. When these guys are at home, they create. They always have, and obviously they're a little more balanced this year. So that has actually affected their attack in a positive way. But and then, like we said, Philadelphia, they're done with U.S. Open Cup and Champions League, and so they can focus on the league, and their attack is looking like it's getting back to how good it was last year. So I have less confidence in how these two teams are going to match up. For some reason, I'm not able to see it in my head that well. So I'm probably less sure of what kind of game we're going to get here. But it's hard not to like goals, just the way that these two teams have played this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. Man, where I need to find. I think this could be a fun game for some anytime goal scorers as well. I like goals, but everyone here is going to be plus money. So like you got again, Carranza and Bobasi are probably the two best looks there. Gazdag gets all the penalties. I like that a lot. So yeah, if you're wanting to have some fun, I think this game could be fun from different ways to play it. So yep, that's how I'm going to wrap it up with those three, and then a little sprinkle on a big money line.
All right, I like it. Let's keep the good times rolling. Please, if you're watching the show, hit the thumbs up on the video on YouTube. It helps me a lot. If you haven't followed the Twitter for the podcast, it's at MLS Live Podcast on Twitter. And appreciate everybody tuning in.
Jose, happy anniversary, brother.
Wow, 14th wedding anniversary. And his wife loves the money that he wins from watching the show. I bet she does. We're expecting a gift basket come Christmas time. But
I love it.
Biscuit, appreciate you tuning in as well. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Thank you, guys. Best of luck.